Hello and welcome to Life Beyond Repair, a community for those who have ever felt broken, lost or unable to go on. Here you will find a series of inspirational interviews with incredible individuals, people who have brought themselves back from the brink and are now sharing their stories to empower others. Join us here and across all social media platforms as we prove that there is in fact life beyond repair. Hello and welcome to today's episode. My name is Gemma Margerison and this is Life Beyond Repair. Our guest today is joining us all the way from Canada. Hello, Josh.
Hey, Gemma, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Hey, not too bad. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh no, it's great to have you. Would you mind just kind of starting off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so grew up in Canada, lived in Canada for all my life, got up to some pretty intense adventures as a young lad that kind of shaped my sense of adventure. And that saw me going over to Britain to join the Royal Marine Commandos at 18 in 2005, where I did 6 years, served in some pretty specialized units during that time. I left, went into private security world like most of us do, lived in Africa for a couple of years, and I really wanted to get back to Canada and get back to my roots, which were climbing, which I did over the span of my time away from Canada here and there, all around the world. So I ended up coming back to Canada in 2014 and pursued that passion full on. Lived in the back of a truck, climbing summer and winter, getting after it as much as I can, and loving it. And it was a really good thing for me, coming from the world that I came from. But in 2016, I ended up having an accident that left me paralyzed from the chest down. Pretty intense experience, a lot of complications. 8 months in hospital for rehab and learning how to live in a new body, essentially. And then I started my work, I guess, as a paracyclist and as a speaker pretty much during that recovery point. And that's what I've been doing now for the last few years.
Wow. That's so you've had some pretty sort of intense kind of transitions in your life, I guess, coming from Canada to the UK and your experience as part of the armed forces, coming out of that role and then I guess moving back to Canada and then transitioning again into sort of, like you said, this new body. Have you had anything that's been particularly helpful in terms of you managing those transitions?
Yes, albeit initially those transitions were managed in what I would say was an unhealthy way, where I used a lot of my experiences in my previous role that I learned primarily in the military, how to deal with things. And they are good things. But I was they weren't healthy, where I was able to kind of repress a lot of emotion, feeling, and just drive forward and get those things done that I needed to get done. At the time, for instance, being in hospital, I needed to push things aside to, just get on with it. But I did it in a pretty unhealthy way, sort of thing. So that's been an evolving learning process on how to manage things now in a helpful way.
Yeah. So was there a particular moment of recognition that this perhaps wasn't the healthiest way to deal with the things that you were going through?
Yeah, I think when I came out of the hospital, I moved back home with my parents. You know, I had nowhere to go. You know, I couldn't go back into the back of the truck, which I was living in. And to be honest, I really didn't know my family. You know, that I was away for so long. Some, you know, really different experiences that were really unrelatable to them, and I didn't really maintain those relationships at all. And sort of what I saw was these people that loved me dearly, and I was pretty gruff, pretty short with them, and that's been still evolving how to build those relationships. That kind of, I don't know if there was a single point, but kind of over that year of living at home and kind of figuring things out and seeing like, hey, these people are helping me out no matter what.
So you and I have had a conversation previous to this where you explained that your accident and the recovery from that perhaps wasn't what you felt the most difficult thing to experience. Would you mind kind of telling us a little bit more about what was your most difficult experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would just like to just say, you know, I think the reason why the accident maybe wasn't the worst thing was I was kind of, it was in the back of my mind, and I'd prepared myself that injury, you know, the things I was doing was, you know, injury could be part of it. My experiences in the military, you know, that was always in my mind. Hey, I could get injured, could get killed. So I think that kind of prepared me for injury. The biggest thing, or what is worse, I guess, experience was that transition coming home back to Canada, you know, out of the private security world, which is very similar to the military. Yeah, I felt completely lost, out of depth, and like I couldn't get a grip on the reality around me. You know, what is normality? A lot of probably being quite naive on my part and unprepared. And that, yes, that transition was really difficult. I came out of a pretty bad broken relationship with that, as well as about a year to coming home. You know, I lost a very good friend to a suicide. So it was just a whirlwind of emotions, not knowing how to recognize and regulate those emotions, and no sense of purpose, really. So that was probably the most difficult period.
And do you think there's anything that could have helped you prepare for that particular transition?
Yeah, probably just really just preparing better myself, kind of knowing, well, yeah, just preparing a little bit better myself, not just within the way of, you know, finding a job. That was part of it, but learning, hey, how to emotionally figure things out, you know, how to regulate those things. And at the time, I don't think I was mature enough to seek out some help, sort of thing, or really know where to look for it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. It does, absolutely. I think there's quite a lot there in what you've said about kind of not necessarily knowing the outcome, but knowing some of the possible outcomes and having mentally prepared for those scenarios in case one of them happens. So yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. So in your role now, as you kind of speak to people about your experiences and about kind of resilience, what is the key message that you're trying to get across?
So the key thing that I try to get across or relate is in my life, recognizing and reflecting on where you've come from, either the good and the bad, and using those experiences, those emotions as stepping stones to move forward. And I've had some incredible leadership, friendship, experiences, and been able to witness guys primarily doing extraordinary things that I can also reflect and look back on. So those examples of sort of courage, determination, unselfishness, and also being cheerful in adversity. I like to look at those things and reflect and just try to use them as stepping stones to move forward.
Yeah, fantastic. So if somebody said to you, look, I'm in a really difficult place right now. I don't know how to keep going. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would just say, start breathing, regulate with some breath, and I say that with, that really can really level you out, can really, when in the military, that's one of the first things they teach you to do is breathe when you're shooting, and to start being able to regulate that. And you can shoot a target in very intense situations. So I'd say breathing, and honesty. You need to be really, really honest with yourself. You just need to breathe, stop, reflect a little bit, be honest about the emotions that you're feeling, where you want to go, maybe how you want to get there. And if you need help getting there, to reach out to someone. There's many organizations, friends, partners, if you can, to go to. Because if you don't really know where you're wanting to go, you're just gonna, from my experience, just stay in this whirlwind of uncertainty, and that can just breed and spiral further down the whatever.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Where would you like to kind of take the work that you're doing?
Probably just a lot more speaking engagements, interacting with different organizations, different associations. And I'm always happy to speak to people like yourself, individuals. So within that for my work, and then just continue with my sort of cycling, which I do as a paracyclist, just keep building on that. And that kind of keeps me happy for now. So see how long that goes for, type thing.
I guess there must be some kind of mental and emotional benefits to the cycling as well as the physical. How is that for you?
Yeah, I think the physical component, whether it was the cycling or the climbing previously, and the climbing is it's different. Getting your body moving and pushing your body, really, it challenges you in a different way in your mind. And that can start with taking a couple walks around the block and maybe jogging one. And if you've never jogged around the block and you're highly inactive, that jogging around the block is going to be pretty difficult. And you will come to a point where, hey, I want to quit, I want to stop. But as soon as you push past that little barrier and you're able to do it yourself, that's where something in your mind will then shift. And then you can keep shifting that. And those are those resilient stepping stones that you can reflect back on to help you progress through whatever difficult challenges. So that's kind of how I have blended the two together. And the the climbing aspect of it was a lot more intense because there's a lot more on the line, as I found out, in a bigger, harsher environment. So that was very intense, very almost on a spiritual art form as well. Helped me out definitely with the healing process coming out of everything I'd been through previously in my life.
So where can people find out more about you?
So they can go to my website, Joshua Pelland. That's PELLAND.com, joshuapelland.com. Find my social links there, shoot me a message, and I'm always happy to interact with anybody and take questions and meet different people.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and for everybody that's going to listen to this.